ready when you are.
Hello, everyone. I'm joined today with Aavius. Aavius today is a live streamer, but 9 years ago, Aavius was a different person. 9 years ago, Aavius was a 14-year-old boy who sent death threats and hateful messages at social justice warriors, including some of the anti-GamerGate people. Now, he's not this person anymore. Uh, and I'm happy that he wanted to share his story and felt comfortable talking about the things that he did when he was a kid. So how are you doing, Avius?
Not too bad today. Yeah, just not doing too bad today. I guess what I would have to ask is, what exactly would you want to know? What do you want me to dive into?
Well, I guess now you said before that you didn't even know what Gamergate was. That
Yeah,
this,
no, not even an understanding.
yeah. So you were 14. Is that the first time you started going online?
I would say my online journeys, the whole reason why I even fell into Gamergate was actually because of World of Warcraft. I had been playing World of Warcraft since the age of 7, and a lot of the people that actually got me into those Gamergate groups came from like my World of Warcraft guild and shit like that.
Okay, and you say Gamergate groups, but in an earlier conversation, you said that they weren't Gamergate groups. They were just groups of people
So,
that hated social justice warriors and wanted to fuck with them.
So let me classify when I say Gamergate groups, when I say that back at the time, that's just what I referred to the groups that I was hanging out in. I don't refer to At the time I didn't refer to them as Gamergate groups, but over time that's what I've referred to them as just to like classify it, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. So you play World of Warcraft, you join these groups on Skype, right?
Yep, that was Sky back then.
And the people in these groups, they wanted to troll people and give the social justice warriors a hard time on the internet, basically, right?
Yeah, so essentially what would end up happening is we were spread across multiple different social medias, and if we found someone that was reporting like one of our friends or they were harassing us or what the fuck ever, what we would do is we would take their login attached with the social media, post it in chat, and whoever was inside of chat, um, basically what would end up happening is once we would get to a person, they would like remove the name from the chat and then we wouldn't have to worry about it and we would go on to the next person. But as long as you would open it up and basically see the nice long list of names for you to go after, it was fair game for you to start going after people.
Okay. And you said in a previous interview or discussion that we had, or maybe I watched you say this with other people, um, that part of the reason you didn't like the social justice warrior people is because they wouldn't let you use the N word on the internet. Is that right?
Yeah, precisely. Back at this time, I was in a very poor neighborhood where I didn't hang out with other people that, had my same type of skin tone. So it was actually a very big contention with me with like social justice warrior types because the fact I wasn't allowed to say things like the N word. They didn't want me to say things like the F slur, so on and so forth, because they might just be slurs, but when you're a 13-year-old white kid in the ghetto, there's something endearing about someone calling you the N-word. And when you're then told that you can't say it by people who have never lived a life like you, or from what you perceive have never lived a life like you, because a lot of these people are like middle class college students that were online talking about all this shit, which makes sense because these would have been the progressives at the time. These would have been the people that would be in the position to understand the more progressive position. So, like, looking back in hindsight, I can understand why they were the more progressive people, but still, it was a huge goddamn contention at the time because they were so fucking stuck up, they literally drove me to the far right.
So when you were in these groups, from my understanding, so I just want to recap because it sounds
Oh, yeah.
pretty straightforward. Somebody would post a username, and other people would go harass that person or fuck with them on the internet, and then they delete the name off the chat, and then someone would post a new name whenever they felt like something, felt like someone said something that they want to quote unquote address.
Precisely. Best way I would describe it, we would have our busy days and our slow days, where there would be days there would only be like maybe 5 names posted in chat. Other days it would be a continuous line of new messages going in.
How many people were in this chat room, if you don't mind me asking?
I think towards the end there was like 32 people, but the beginning it was me and 6 others.
Okay. Uh, at the time, did you think that? Well, what kind of things, what kind of messages would you send to the people that were posted?
Okay, so back then, so my mom, when I was like probably 6 years old, and this was the worst thing that she could have ever fucking did. When I was like 6 or 7 years old, she showed me this website called Rotten.com. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay, so Rotten.com was a website that was very popular in like the early 2000s that was used for sharing gore. And my mom, she real big gore head. She's always looked at gore. So my mom ended up showing me like Rotten.com at a young age, plus another couple other websites. So at a very young age, I learned what gore looked like. Learned what people looked like with their heads chopped off and shit like that. So that's what I more have specialized in. I went to these real fucked up websites. I downloaded fuck tons of really screwed up images, and I would spam people with them, just trying to ruin people's day. Like my entire goal was I liked the idea of somebody looking at the fucking gore and having their day ruined from it because I thought I was a badass going, oh, I don't mind this shit. This isn't, there's nothing wrong with this at all. So that's what I would do mostly is specialize in spamming gore. But if the person didn't get bothered with gore and like let's say they were a super feminist type, I would spam them with gangbang content.
Got you. Did you ever make any um threats yourself? You were a minor, so I don't think you have like any legal culpability to this day, plus like statute of limitations and stuff. Did you ever send like people threats too?
I would tell people to go kill themselves, but when it comes to like actual threats, probably not. But yeah, I told everybody to go kill themselves.
Okay. Now, other people in this group, did they also stick to the gore stuff, or did they send people other stuff as well?
I'm pretty sure there was a lot of people that stuck to the gore, but it was your like prerogative to get what images you wanted to. It's not like the group had a list and a rule of, oh, this is what we use. It was up to the troll's discretion.
Did you didn't did to your knowledge, did anybody in the group engage in doxing?
I believe so. I did not, but I believe there was other people in the group that did.
Okay. Uh, now obviously you were 14 years old. What do you think about that stuff now?
Now I think I was basically fucking mind controlled into believing a bunch of retarded shit that was never true to begin with. But at the same time, I feel like there was still very justified reasons as to why I was like that. Because, like, as I was saying, that the N word thing sounds pretty stupid. But when I was 13 and when the only friends that I had was black, it felt very demeaning because I felt like at the time the left didn't want to understand people in my position where I feel like the left should more empathize with, stupid little white kids like me that might be saying the N word. Like, yeah, sure, educate me for the reasons of I shouldn't do this, but don't like push me away. Because I felt like back then the people on the left even if I was willing to listen to them, they wouldn't have been willing to teach me. They would have thought I was an obnoxious, annoying fucktard because I was an obnoxious, annoying fucktard at the time. But treating me like an obnoxious, annoying fucktard only made me worse.
You said that it pushed you to the far right.
Oh yeah, I was on the far right for the longest fucking time.
What kind of beliefs did you believe in?
Um, over the years, I ended up believing in more and more extreme shit. By the time I was 17, I had believed in the Great Replacement theory. I thought Mexicans were literally coming over to the US to take all of our jobs. Um, that was a belief I actually inherited from my father, though, because around since I've always lived in like Las Vegas and shit like that, so more by the southern border, my dad has always talked shit about Hispanic people because my dad, he's always worked lower income jobs like gas station, convenience store, Walmart, shit like that. And he's always said, "Oh my God, these damn dirty Mexicans are, taking my job." And he's always said this. And growing up, I didn't see it as him being like bullshitting. Like now, growing up, I realized it wasn't the fact that Mexicans are taking his job, it's the fact that he was a lazy cunt and he never like actually wanted to do something good in his life, right? But back at the time, because I was in all of these Gamergate circles, my dad was always more far right, and I didn't believe him until I was like in these circles, until I started having people in my guild like tell me more far right things. Then it was like when I would hear the shit my dad would tell me, it started sticking a little bit more. I started listening a little bit more. Um, I have a feeling that if I would have never joined those like Gamergate groups by the time it was 2017, I wouldn't have believed in like the Great Replacement. I actually loved Donald Trump. I didn't ever say it out loud because I was afraid that my friends were going to like look at me weird because all my friends they liked Hillary at the time, which was weird. Besides my friend Ernie and Jamal, who were both Trump supporters, so they both knew that I liked Trump. Everybody else I never told that I liked Trump, including my mother, because my mom, huge Hillary supporter, and my mom would have been so fucking disappointed in me if she knew I would have supported Trump. So, like, the funny thing about it, I tried to be brave about my beliefs, but I still never even talked about the fact that I was obsessed with Trump at the time because I was like, fuck yeah, Trump is exactly what we need to fight these horrible fucking SJWs. He'll tell you how it is, he'll get up in your fucking face. And that was seriously my fucking ideology at the time. When I go back and think at the time, my beliefs don't make any fucking sense, especially when it comes to things like the Great Replacement Theory, because now I have so much knowledge about everything I used to think, I can't even understand my previous belief, if that makes sense.
And so you weren't really aware of what Gamergate was, except there were at least a couple of instances. You brought this up in your conversation with Food Shops, Roy Calbeck, Silverwolf CC, C4 Cypher, and Soyaddle, I believe. And also there was another person there too, El Iguana. And in this conversation, you said that that the GamerGate anti-harassment patrol people had gotten several of your accounts banned, and that was your encounter with GamerGate.
Oh, yeah. Um, I basically would make a new throwaway account every week. Like, when I say they would get my accounts banned, that was a to say that they were getting my accounts banned, I could say that, and I'm pretty sure they were getting my accounts banned, but also I was spamming people with fucking suicide videos and people with their heads chopped off. So there was probably a lot of reasons why I was getting banned.
Now that you're an adult and you're looking back, so you called these groups the GamerGate groups, though they weren't that formally, and the people involved, at least some of them, clearly didn't even know what GamerGate was. Uh, Now that you've sort of had time to learn about what there was this like real GamerGate thing, um, the movement, what do you think of that?
So Gamergate actually confuses the fuck out of me. And I have a feeling that you probably like have the relatively same feelings I do about this. And what I mean by that is a lot of the people that talk about like Gamergate, like yourself, me and you are not in the same boat. The reason why is because when I was in Gamergate, I didn't look at it as Gamergate. I looked at it just my quote unquote alt right days. The thing that made me look upon it as Gamergate over time was the fact that like everybody else started saying it was Gamergate, where it's like, you know how people basically refer to that period as Gamergate, where it's like that few years?
Yeah, and everything that happened during that period is referred to as Gamergate by some people. But I think that is, I don't like when people do that. But yeah,
Oh, I understand. Yeah. That I would say is like my problem with it is I used to not refer to those periods as Gamergate until I basically realized everybody else referred to those periods as Gamergate. Like I used to that's how I say that I used to be in these Gamergate groups and I had no fucking idea it was even Gamergate because I didn't look at it as Gamergate at the time. Same with a lot of people. They were just, far right groups or right wing groups. I joined them because they agreed with my ideology and they told me, fuck it, I'm allowed to say whatever I want. So, that's why I was in there. There was no it was just for ideological reasons I was there. It wasn't for anything that was actually going on. I had no fucking idea what was going on, and I would put money that 50% of the people I talked to were the exact same way. Because people on the right have never been too motivated when it comes to learning the specifics of the event that's going on. A lot of them will co opt a message based on what their ideology is. That's something that I noticed based on multiple different groups I was in over like the 5 years I was on the alt right.
yeah, and I understand why like this happened during the Gamergate time period, and other people said, well, Gamergate's about harassment. So you just sort of like you made the connection with that, even though you at the time were not supportive of it and didn't know much about it at all. The reason I'm pushing back a little bit is because a lot of the people who supported Gamergate, like most of the people I've interviewed for this book project, they were like comprised of like this very loose movement online. And unfortunately, because you and some other people, like in your group and other groups too, not just this one group, there were so many different trolls. Um, we got the movement got blamed for the actions that like outsiders like you were engaging in, and it made it difficult for us to bring about the reforms that we wanted to see.
Would you believe me if I said there was actually internal conflict within our groups?
Doesn't surprise me at all. Anytime you get like a group of people together, you're gonna have internal conflict, I feel.
Yeah, so that was the funny thing about it. We didn't just troll other people. There would be days where I would actually get trolled on my main accounts because I would try to keep my main accounts private. But somehow, even then, people would still start messaging my main Skype, start spamming me with gore, death threats. Someone tried to dox me. I wasn't doxxed, but someone did try to dox me and figure out where I lived. And these were never people on the left. At least to my knowledge, these were not people on the left. These were other people on the right that were fighting. So when it comes to the third party troll groups, they weren't just fighting against your group. We were fighting against ourselves. Like it was a free for all basically is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too shocking. So now it sounds like after all this time, you've come to distance yourself from your previous views. You no longer consider yourself a part of the alt right. Where would you say you sit politically now?
I'm a straight up fucking neolib because my political journey, the thing that made me change my philosophy was I lived in Portland in 2019 and I couldn't afford my apartment, hands down. Just literally, I was busting my fucking ass at the time because of everything I believed on the right. I was like, it shouldn't be this fucking hard. I shouldn't be struggling. I'm literally working all of the overtime I'm illegally allowed to work in my state. I'm doing everything I fucking can, and I can still barely pay rent and get food in my fridge. What the fuck's going on? So that actually turned me into a communist. I went straight up. Do you know who Ninetales is?
I do indeed. I'm interviewing her as well.
Okay, yeah. So I went straight up book chinny and fucking communism Ninetales. I despised capitalism as a system, and for a year, I went from being on the extreme right to the extreme left. And then after a while, I would say I balanced back out in the middle. I realized communism is fucking trash because there's no good way to actually divvy up things within communism. And that's another thing that I've also learned about being on the far right. It has made me extremely paranoid about gathering information because I'm always worried I don't know enough. So I'm always wanting to pick up and learn more information so I can make sure my views are in a place of reality because previously they weren't. And it's honestly something I'm a little bit scared of, I used to believe all this really retarded shit. What tells me there's not something that would stop me from believing in more retarded shit in the future?
What have you found? Have you found anything, I guess, that has been useful in helping you determine what's real and what's not in terms of searching for information, doing research, things like this?
Okay. Real information coincides with previous information you know. And what I mean by that is you could take this in 100 different ways, but if you're reading something about oil, for instance, and something is trying to tell you the reasons why gas prices are bad, well, 9 times out of 10, if you read an article that talks about how transport is the leading cause in gas price, and then you start reading a thing about gas price specifically, and it starts breaking down how transport is the issue, then you'll know the article you read previously that says transport is the problem was true because once you start reading in detail, you start seeing the reasons as to why it costs so much to transport. That's what I would say is the best truth seeking message. Truth normally will get backed up in other forms.
I want to go back to the behavior you used to engage in and ask when you think about it, either then, when you thought about it then, or think about it now, do you think that this kind of thing happening on the internet is a problem? People sending people gore, stuff like that, or do you think it's just like not really that big of a deal?
I would say the problem is actually people getting radicalized like me. Um, I don't. The sending gore, yeah, that's a problem. But the real problem that I'm worried is the groups that I was in. Because I got groomed to be on the far right because some of the guys that were telling me all this shit, these were like 35 fucking 40-year-old dudes. One of the dudes sent me a photo one day. He actually had a fucking Nazi tattoo. So these were basically far right actual fucking Nazis that were grooming me to be on the far right. And that's the thing that I would say I would be concerned with is how can we prevent people from basically getting isolated enough like me and feeling basically vindicated enough to where they turn to these groups and then once you're in these groups they can make you believe whatever the fuck they want you to believe.
What do you think is the answer to help people who feel like they're isolated and they're young or they're impressionable? How do we instill those people with virtue, or good ideas or critical thinking or whatever it happens to be that doesn't lead them down this path?
People like Ninetales is literally the biggest problem in the internet right now. Reason why I say that, I asked about Ninetales, even though I dislike them very much. They called me a fucking a shooter. They said I look like a mass shooter wannabe on Twitter. Um, and the reason why I say that is people that are pushing people away online and like pushing people towards extremism, I think is the biggest problem. Because somebody like Ninetales, if I would have met her, she would have been the person that would have pushed me into those groups. So if you want to stop people from going inside of these groups, you need to stop being so goddamn dogmatic when it comes to people you disagree with. Just because you have disagreements doesn't mean you should tear their fucking head off. Tear their head off on points. Don't tear their head off because of their ideology. Re-educate their ideology. Tear down certain elements of their thought process. But the problem is people are just so goddamn dogmatic. You're never going to start a conversation with a kid like me when they're 14. You're going to push them into joining that group, and he's going to go on the far right.
Yeah, I can't speak to Ninetales personally. I know her and I get along with her for the most part. I don't have any issues with her, um, that I want to bring up publicly. I but I think you're right about this. It's the pushback against people and this extremely like hostile, go educate yourself. It's not my job to educate you. You're a Nazi. You're a fascist. To anyone who even offers the most mild disagreement or asks questions, and people will throw out these accusations and cut ties with you and block you, um, and call you a monster over very, very minor disagreements or even just asking questions about their belief system. And this does radicalize people. I think that that's what caused that and the mass censorship. That's what caused people to say fuck it, I'm going to vote for Trump. That's what caused people to be like fuck it, you're going to keep calling me a Nazi, maybe I'll become one. And
Very true.
and people will go to the places where they're not being called names, where they're not being called uh, a monster, and they're going to go places where they're going to be opened with welcome arms like you were, and they're also going to go into these echo chambers, and they're not going to be exposed to any opposing viewpoints for the most part. And when they
Mm-hmm.
are, it's going to be the straw maniest straw man, the dumbest arguments you'll find on Twitter or whatever, rather than actually engaging with a high level intelligent person who disagrees with them.
Yeah, exactly. Because let me tell, I was not engaging in high level debate and conversation inside of these fucking groups. I probably didn't have a single critical thought when it came to politics until I was 20, if I'm being honest.
All right. Well, hey, you played video games too. You talked about World of Warcraft. Uh, well, first off, I don't know that much about World of Warcraft history. What was that like? Because I find it really interesting actually. What was it like to play World of Warcraft back in the day?
So, this is what people don't realize. World of Warcraft is YouTube. Like, World of Warcraft pretty much is the fucking internet. A lot of the shit that got started online started with WoW. I started using YouTube in 2006 at the age of 6 because um, what would end up happening was World of Warcraft, they did maintenance on Tuesday, right? So every Tuesday, the server would go down. Sometimes the server would be back up in 3 hours. Sometimes the server wouldn't be back up until fucking no, Wednesday. So like they would shut it down on Tuesday. Sometimes it wouldn't be back up till the next day. So I would go back and I would watch YouTube videos at that time. And that's when you saw YouTubers like Akeem, you saw fucking Swifty, you saw what the fuck was his name? Basically a bunch of old ass OG YouTubers at the time, right? And I would say that was the vibe of World of Warcraft back then. Completely fucking different to anything we can imagine because it was before the current stage of the internet we're at. Um, Most of the people that I would talk to, there was no Skype back in the, you know, before days of World of Warcraft. There was no third-party application. You talked to your guild in the game, you socialized in the game. If you wanted to use microphones, there was this fun little app called Ventrilo, which the best way to explain Ventrilo, imagine paying $15 a month just so you could have a Discord voice channel. Not a Discord server, but literally a Discord voice channel with one single text window that you guys could type in. Um, and that's what you would have to use. You would have to have somebody inside of your guild renting a Ventrilo server so all of you could join and talk during your raids so you could actually like strategize and shit like that. Um, when it comes down to the type of people that played World of Warcraft has always been a more, I would say, conservative game because a lot of the people that play it are older men. So it's like if I hop on it right now, the average person that's playing World of Warcraft is a 35-year-old guy. Uh, and just so happens when you look at 35-year-old men, they seem to lean more conservative.
Wait,
So
is that
if
really
you
their demographics or
Oh,
for
for
WoW?
World of Warcraft, easily. I would put money that is probably 35 is the average age that's playing the game. Like it is by nowhere
Oh,
near.
it says I don't know if this I don't know if this site is. I just put in Google. It says that it's 84% male, 16% female, and average age is 28.3 years old. And they
Yeah,
spend an
I would
average
say
of
that's right.
22.7 hours. But again, this is one website. I don't know if that's true.
I would say the problem is it's hard to actually give that number any credit because World of Warcraft stopped reporting their sub count in I think 2014.
Oh, this
So,
study was done in 2007 or 2005. I'm sorry. So like this is way out of date data.
oh yeah, that's the OG WoW.
Yeah, this was done in 2005. I'm surprised the website still is still up.
Yeah, that is actually kind of crazy.
I do want to
But
ask too. You used to watch. You said I think it was in the conversation on Food Shop's channel. You said that you used to watch anti-SJW YouTubers and would sometimes harass the people who were mentioned in their videos. Is that right?
oh yeah. So, I would say the worst point of harassment for me, there was two YouTubers, Sargon of Akkad, and this one you might actually think is weird, but do you know who Leafy is?
I've heard of them. I don't know them personally, or I've not seen their content really.
So Sargon of Akkad, he did more like talking content. Um, like so they both did talking content, like criticized videos is what how I like to consider them. It's the videos where it's like they'll show the video of the person and it's them talking and it just bounces back and forth. That was essentially both of their content. Sorry, excuse me. But Leafy on the other hand, Leafy was basically the Gen Z, I wouldn't say Gen Z version of Sargon of Akkad because him and Sargon were completely different. But essentially, most of their videos was about someone or something. And the ones that were about someone, especially when it came to Leafy, because all of his videos were about someone, I would go and harass who the video was about. It wasn't a 100% thing. It was more of a, if I felt inspired after watching the video, I would go and fuck with you. But I wouldn't always do it.
And it's interesting too because I remember during the time during GamerGate, um, Sargon was a supporter of GamerGate. In addition, he did a bunch of non-GamerGate content too, like general anti-SJW stuff and some other stuff as well. But during GamerGate, he was getting people accused him, like other content creators, would say, "Oh, when Sargon makes a video about us, people, his fans are coming to attack us." And he would, I remember at the time at least, he was very vocal against this. He's still on his channel. It still says, "Do not contact the people in my videos." And I think he said this multiple times as well. Did these messages from the content creator asking you not to contact the people in their videos, did that sway you at all?
So this is the problem with that. Um, I think Sargon is kind of being giving a lazy apologia there. The reason why is content creators need to do more than that. And the reason why within our groups when like any of the content creators we looked up to would talk about us or like uh basically try to condone us or anything, we kind of looked at it as them winking at us, where it's like, oh, they're not actually condemning us, it's like them winking at us, because if they were condemning us they would condemn us, but we're not being condemned because we're doing what they want us to. That, and them responding this way is proof that we're doing what they want us to. They just can't say the quiet powder out loud, but they're actually supporting us. That's how we would have looked at like a message of Sargon of Akkad saying, "Oh, don't contact the people in my comment section, or don't contact the people the video is about." We would have been like, "Oh, okay, yeah, wink, wink. We get what you're saying." We wouldn't have done anything about that. Well, when I say we wouldn't have done anything about it, we wouldn't have taken the word seriously whatsoever. We would have saw it as a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, continue what you're doing.
So, how should a content creator have addressed that allegation that their fans were getting a little wild?
You are not a part of my community. You are a bunch of pieces of shit, and I don't condone your actions. You are not a part of my community whatso fucking ever if you do this shit.
Well, I huh. That's kind of the approach I would probably take. Like if it was the case that like my fans were harassing people I was talking about in my videos or whatever, or people I interviewed, like you, if people harassed you after this and like they were like known people who were like members of my Discord server who were like, yeah, go kill this guy or go here's his docs or something, I would 100% um, condemn that person, probably ban them from the Discord as well. Uh, but I also know too that like Sargon, he had I don't know what he had during that time. I think like over 100,000 viewers. He later had over subscribers. He later had over 1 million subscribers, I think, or close
Oh,
to
he
it.
blew the fuck
So
up pretty
like
quick.
I don't know if like somebody who is that size is really capable of really policing what their fans do at that point.
I don't think they can police them, but what I think they could do is they could say more in the regards of condemning them. Because Sargon, he did say, "Oh, don't go harass people," but that's like putting a fucking warning at the beginning of the show Jackass. You remember seeing that in like the early 2000s, right?
Do not attempt at home.
Yeah, you saw that, and you know how every dumbass motherfucker that was watching Jackass was just like, "Yeah, that's right. Yeah, don't try this at home," with the fucking quotation marks in the air. That that's how everybody looked at it. And when a content creator just gives a basic fucking message like, "Oh, don't harass people. Don't harass the people I make videos on." Yeah, it's basically a fucking wink to all trolls that are going to go do that. It's like, "Oh yeah, we get what you're saying. Okay."
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not usually super defensive of Sargon of Akkad, but I did know him back then. We did interact like quite a few times, quite a bit. I don't think like he wanted his fans to harass people. I really don't think he did. I think that if anything, and again I'm mind reading a little bit here, but I think if anything, he thought that the claims were mostly not true and that the social justice warriors were just saying that the quote unquote social justice warriors were just saying that because you know because they wanted to they didn't have arguments to deal with his ideas. I think that's like probably how he would have like thought of it. And like if there's like one or two people in my audience who are assholes, like who cares? I think that's or who cares? I did the right thing. I said don't do it. So what more is there to do? I don't think that he was like trying to like encourage or wink and nod at people who were doing stuff like that. And
I would agree with you. I don't think he was trying to encourage violence. I think it's more of the fact that Sargon didn't care, and as you were saying, Sargon didn't really believe it. Plus, when it comes down to a lot of the doxing and trolling and all the fucked up shit that happened in GamerGate, my personal theory, there probably wasn't a lot of people actually doing it. There was probably only like 10,000 trolls. I was probably a part of the 10,000 army, right?
well, 10,000 trolls. I
Yeah, that's a lot of fucking trolls. That's a lot of bullshit happening, right?
10,000
And
dedicated to the well, I don't know. I don't think there were 10,000 dedicated to the Gamergate thing. I think there were like several dozen dedicated just to the Gamergate thing. Now, if you want to talk about like everybody who trolled during that time period, like maybe you're looking at like thousands of people, maybe even 10,000 people, but like specifically who dedicated themselves to trolling the Gamergate thing specifically, I think that was like pretty small, like a few dozen. Or maybe we should define troll.
oh yeah, we could define troll.
So
Sorry, I'm plugging something in
So
real
I'm sorry.
quick.
When I say troll, I know that like the term has evolved over time. I mean like the old school troll, like someone who doesn't have a dog in the fight at all and just wants to fuck with people on both sides because they're kind of, or just like fuck with everybody on the internet, and they're like sort of like the old anonymous, on 4chan, where they're
Oh,
like they don't have an ideology. Their ideology is fuck everybody. I don't care if you're conservative. I don't care if you're liberal. I don't care what you are. I'm against everybody, and I'm going to try and have some fun, like that kind of troll. That's what I mean. Are you using it in the same way or a different way?
okay. So I guess my term of troll. So like you're using troll in the like chaotic evil way of a D&D
More
character.
chaotic neutral, yeah, or
Yeah,
maybe
like
chaotic
the
evil, yeah.
just they want to stir shit up for the fuck of it. I guess the type of troll I've been using is it's like you've played RTS games before, right?
Yeah.
So in my head, I look at the troll as like a unit in an RTS game to use in the battle of the internet, where the troll is the type of person that will do the things the rest of the activists are afraid to do. Like, tell someone to go kill themselves, send them videos of people's heads being chopped off, and, all the really fucked up shit. Or like recently, my sister, this was the funny thing. My sister, it kind of had the same experience I did, but on the opposite side, on the left. My sister would send people death threats. My sister would send people gore messages. She would send pro life people videos of abortions. When she was 16, she would spam pro lifers with videos of abortions. So, you know, apple doesn't far fall from the tree. There might be some genetic factors there. I don't know. But, just had to bring that up. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and that's sort of how I guess people use the word troll now. Uh, they basically just mean someone who's a dick on the internet. It seems when they people use it now.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like it could be the way that you're referring to it. It can also be someone that they're on my side and they're going to fight the enemy with all means.
So honestly, I don't really know where else to go with this. I feel like we've covered your role in the GamerGate thing, as minor as it was. Well, did you specifically? I guess I'll ask you. Did you specifically harass like uh like Brianna Wu, Anita Sarkeesian, or Zoe Quinn, the three people? Um, or maybe you don't even remember. This was almost a decade ago. But do you remember sending anything specifically to those three individuals on Twitter or anything else?
If I remember correctly, if I could find my original Twitter, Brianna Wu was one of the first people I ever tweeted at because she triggered me. And I never like spammed Brianna Wu or anything because my philosophy ever since I was a kid was why am I going to spam big people online because they're probably never going to see it and I don't want to waste my time. I would rather bother the person that I know is going to see my DM.
Do you remember what your tweet at Brianna Wu was?
I have no fucking idea, honestly. It had something to do with every time I would respond, 9 times out of 10, it was something to do with racism or feminism.
Oh, so you did tweet at her quite a bit.
Yes, it was I was on Twitter and Tumblr quite a bit, but the shit that I would respond to was mostly shit that had to do with either racism or feminism. Like I was a very much anti-feminism guy at the time.
Did you also send stuff to Zoe Quinn or Anita Sarkeesian, or do you not remember?
Ania Sarkeesian, I don't remember. Zoe Quinn, maybe.
Okay. Well, hey, dude, I'm not. I'm not here to judge you, man. It was a decade ago, and you're not that person anymore. Obviously, I disavow, but
Oh yeah,
yeah,
strongly disavow from my side as well.
yeah. Well, anyway, I guess I've got you. We are talking about GamerGate. There's something in that word there, gamer. So, do you want to talk about your favorite video game?
Sure, why not? I guess my favorite game is actually World of Warcraft. And World of Warcraft has changed my life in many, 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 many different ways. It turned me into an alt-righter, as you've discovered from this conversation, but it was also the only reason why I wasn't a blibbering fucking idiot growing up. Because another fun little aspect about my life, I never went to school. Um, I had a reading disability growing up that prevented me from reading. Um, and my dad told me basically, fuck it, I'm not putting you in school. You're just going to clean up the house and basically be my butler. And that's literally what my dad told me. He said, you're going to be my butler since you're too. How graphic can I get with this? Because I do have a habit of just repeating the shit my dad said, but some of the
Just
shit my dad has said can be NSFW.
yeah, just don't say the N word because YouTube doesn't like that. But everything
Oh,
else is
okay. Yeah,
cool.
no, no. Yeah, no. So basically, he would just be like, his favorite word was retard. So he would tell me, since you're fucking retarded, you're going to be my butler. And that's essentially how my life was. I didn't start reading until I discovered text to speech programs. Once I discovered text to speech programs, that was a fucking game changer. The first book series that I ever completed was Harry Potter. Um, the first book that I ever completed was actually a World of Warcraft book. It was a short story but it's about an this is the hilarious thing about all of this that I didn't even realize until later. The first book that I read was about a human and an orc becoming friends, and basically the human has to help the orc escape, and then the human gets exiled because of it. And I didn't realize that the entire story was an allegory for racism.
Did you ever did you ever get a chance to look at Warcraft Adventures Lord of the Clans, the canceled Warcraft game?
Yes, I wanted to play it. I've heard there is a demo version of the game you can play, like an alpha version.
I've heard that as well. I've not actually done it though. Oh, dude, you're a streamer. That could be good stream content for you.
Oh yeah, that would be honest. Dude, I should go back and play like all the old Warcraft games, like Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, and 3.
Yeah, I've played all three of them. Dude, one has not aged super great, I gotta say.
It
Uh,
has not.
it really has. But two, I feel if you get like the BattleNet edition, you can still play online actually, or you were able to a few years ago. I don't know about now. Um, but Warcraft 2, like the BattleNet edition, it comes with the expansion pack too. That's okay. The gameplay is not as like solid and balanced as StarCraft, which came out later.
Hmm.
But it's still pretty solid. And then Warcraft 3 is I played probably a few hundred hours of that, mostly online though. I didn't beat the campaign.
To be fair, I feel like Warcraft 1 still holds up like okay compared to other games like Tiberian Sun. And I'm not shitting on Tiberian Sun. I'm just saying if you play both of those right now, they're a little bit rough.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and play Tiberian Sun again because that's been like 5 years. But I think the main issue I had with Warcraft 1, and there's probably workarounds with this, is just that like the controls are really difficult to get down on computer.
Oh
That's like
yeah.
the only like that's like the main issue I had. Like gameplay wise, I don't really have an issue as much, but the controls are just rough.
My problem that I had when I haven't played it in like 7 fucking years, so this is old information I'm going on. But the problem that I had, everything was too fucking big and I couldn't fix the resolution no matter what I did. So like I felt too zoomed into the map.
Oh yes, yes, that as well because it was originally released on like DOS. It probably has like a fixed resolutions. But there's
Yeah, probably
probably
480.
there's probably like mods or something you can get online that'll probably change that. I assume. I don't know. I haven't looked.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it. Probably for the GOG version.
Yeah, and dude, you're a big RTS guy, huh?
Oh, I fucking love RTSs. That was the so other than World of Warcraft, those were the games that I played. It was World of Warcraft or RTS games. Growing up, I would play the Stronghold series. That was probably my favorite game series other than anything to do with Warcraft was Stronghold. Then it was like Sim City, Command and Conquer. I was never a big fan of Age of Empire. Like I like the Age of Empire games, but I was never, oh my fucking God, I need to go play Age of Empires. Um, I always felt like Age of Empires was a little overhyped. I don't know if you got that vibe, but I always felt like it was overhyped.
Yeah, I liked the first one. I played it a lot. I played the second one a bit too, but I feel the same way. I feel like it's a solid game. And like I mean it is because like they still have like a really competitive like scene actually with it still. There's still like a bunch of people who cover it, like YouTube channels that will cover um recent matches between like top tier players. So it's like a pretty well like balanced ish game, I guess. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I feel like people are like, oh, it's the greatest game of all time. I feel like there's so many better RTSs. Like even like Empire at War, Star Wars Empire at War is like a really
Oh, dude, yeah. Did you ever play Zeus or like fucking Pharaoh or any of those games?
Zeus or Pharaoh. No.
Dude, those if you can find them on GOG, I recommend it. Those are so fucking fun. Even those are better than the fucking Age of Empire games. Um, Fuck, there was another game that I just oh yeah, the Anno games. That's a series that I'm honestly very fucking disappointed in. The last Anno game I loved was Anno 1404, which is my favorite RTS of like all time, minus the combat. I fucking hate the combat. I wish my dream RTS game would be more complicated than Anno. Like Anno meets Factorio meets Command and Conquer would be my dream RTS.
Yeah, I've heard of Anno. I'm looking it up right now on Steam. I've not played though.
So, this is what I would have to say about Anno. You might like Anno 1800 or any of the other like newer Anno games, but so the last Anno game I liked was 1404 and then they released 2070. The best way I can explain it, 1404 has like a certain snappiness when you're placing your buildings, right? And there's something about my certain level of fucking autism that when I'm playing an RTS game, placing a building has to feel snappy, right? In the new Anno games, they feel like they're a shitty Unity RTS. Does that make sense?
I've not Unity RTSs. Wait, that engine. What was it used for?
Um, God, let me try to find something.
Because it sounds familiar,
It
but
it's like everything when you're placing buildings or like moving around, everything just feels it feels like weird and sluggish. I don't know like really how to explain it. It it feels high def, but when you move, everything feel okay, so it runs at 60 FPS, but it looks like it runs at 20. Does that make sense?
okay, yeah.
And it's like I can never get over it. It's just the way that all of their new games feel. It's something about the engine that they've been using for the last like decade. It just sucks.
You know what? There's an RTS game. It's sort of like a lost RTS game. I'm not sure you'll be able to find it anywhere. I've really tried. It's this indie game called Strife Shadow. I know because like when StarCraft came out, or StarCraft was like people would make like custom tournaments for StarCraft, and there were
Uh-huh.
websites where people would like go and host like fan-run tournaments and also like battle reports. It was a battle reports website called battlereports.com, I think it was, and they would actually post like after action reports of their battles there, of their matches, of their RTS matches.
Really?
And yeah, it was like a really cool thing. Battlereports.com. I'm not even sure if it exists anymore. It probably doesn't. Uh, but they would also do tournaments there, and they supported like StarCraft, and you could like make tournaments in other games too. But like mostly people use it for StarCraft. And then they added like this whole new thing. They were partnering up like with this, or they just like wanted to support it because they liked it and they were fans. I guess they were fans of this game called Strife Shadow. It's this indie RTS game,
Oh, I've heard that.
and it apparently they released like a only like a handful of like physical things of it, I guess. And that's it. That only a handful of things exist online or in real life, and you can't even find people selling them online or anything. It's so rare. Like there's no copies floating around as far as I can tell. And it was supposed to be like this really cool game, but even like won this indie game award, and uh, they released a demo, but like the physical game itself, they never saw widespread distribution. It's not available online anywhere. I couldn't. I don't even think you can find like illegal ways to get it, if you know what I mean. I don't. I've tried. I
Really?
don't. It seems like it basically doesn't exist outside of like the 20 copies that like the developers and their friends have. But it was
Damn, that's
it.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's this whole like lost piece of history that I've wanted to play forever. I played the demo when I was a kid, and it seemed like it was like cool. It had like some interesting ideas, but never got to play the full game. Just that one map on the demo, and that got kind of old after a while. The website for the company still exists that made it, or it did exist, but you can't find their game anywhere, and that's the only thing they ever did. It's like the small studio of friends.
Damn, thank you for showing me this. This is now some lost media I'll have to look into.
You can still download the demo on their website.
Wait, you can still download the demo?
Yeah,
Oh, that's fucked up.
ethermoon.com. Here, I'll link the. But yeah, I'm a huge RTS guy too. I wanted to play. You know what I wanted to play? I got it. I played for like 5 minutes, but it just seems like too much. Have you heard of Startopia?
Yeah, that sounds really familiar.
It seems like it's like a mix of like not like a traditional RTS at all, more of like an economic simulation. But
Okay, see, those are the games I love. That's how Anno is. It's more economic simulation, less strategy.
yeah, that's apparently what this. But it's also a lot of it's like building to like city building, like building your space station. and expanding it and
Oh, it's a
stuff like that
space
too.
game?
Yeah, it's a space game. It's called Startopia. I've heard really good things about it. But I've only played that for like 5 minute period. But it's like so much to get into. It's like whole it's like sitting down to play like Europa Universalis, but not that extreme. Because like they have a tutorial and stuff, and it's like a decent tutorial. But it's like it feels like it's a huge daunting task to like learn all this shit about this game.
So if you like the management style games, I recommend trying Anno 1404. You can usually pick it up on sale on Steam for like $15 for the complete edition because it came out in 2009. It is such a good like management game because the way the game works, Anno, you're separated on islands, right? Your goal is to just get a big population, right? But the thing is, each levels of your population require different things, like beer or spices, so on and so forth. But for instance, spices, you can only get them on desert islands. Desert islands are located in the southern part of your map. The way you get to islands are you have ships. So you have to use your ships to explore your whole map, figure out where all your islands are, and each island has different things that you can harvest from them. So desert islands have spices, but different desert items also have items as well that you need for your desert people that live on your desert islands because you have two different types of people. You have your Basically, you have your white people and your Middle Easterners. Your Middle Easterners take different things than your white people do, and your Middle Easterners will require things that you can only get from your northern islands that have all your trees and grass, and then spices come from your desert ones, and yeah, so on and so forth. It's resource management to the extreme, and then the way you get your resources around is you'll end up designing massive trading networks of automated ships that are going in between your islands, grabbing things from your warehouses and bringing them to other warehouses. You also have to manage how much warehouse space you have.
Yeah, I can't get into games like that anymore. Like I used to love like Civilization, and I still play Stellaris sometimes, but like I can't really get into like the resource management stuff anymore. Like when I was a kid, that'd be like totally cool, but then I'd be like, but as an adult, it's like no, I've only got like usually just a couple hours I can sit down and game, you know. Um, and so I usually just pick like either a single player experience, like a story based game, or I'll just like play something with my friends where it'll be like us killing each other and Super Smash, beating each other up in Super Smash Brothers or something like that, a first person shooter. Like
You know,
unfortunately, I want to get more. I want to try more games, but it's like it just seems like such a huge time investment for like those specific kind of games, like 4X games and stuff.
I'm actually really surprised to hear you say that. I have the opposite feeling. The only reason why I'm still playing RTS games is like I have a fiance and like daughter and also another baby on the way. So when it comes to RTS games, I feel it's the perfect game for me to play right now because if I only have like 40 minutes to play, I can hop in, build a couple buildings, invest in my economy, save, and then exit out.
Yeah, true. I could get into it. It would just like depend on what the game was. But like Stellaris is kind of. Have you played Stellaris?
No, I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm looking it up on Steam right now.
It's I don't know about the new expansion packs because they update the game all the time. But so be prepared to drop a lot of money or get it on sale.
Oh yeah, I've wanted to play this game. I actually have it wishlisted.
Yeah, it's really solid. It's like a Europa Universalis if you played like those or Hearts of Iron, like those like super hardcore in-depth games, strategy
Yeah, I
games.
love Hearts of Iron 4.
Yeah, it's I think it's by the same. Is it? I don't know if it's by the same developers then, but it's a really solid. It's a really solid game, like very similar to that. Extremely difficult, but the tutorial actually isn't like too horrible, and it's very it's very deep. But you can also automate a lot of stuff too, which like, and I also like the part of the problem I run into in the game is like I like most aspects of the game except for the building of the cities, like how managing the planets themselves, and stuff like that. It's because it's like the civilization games where like each planet, well, you have civilization games, each city builds something different.
Hmm.
Well, it's like that, except your planet has like 20 different buildings it can have on it. and you have to like manage that. There's you can automate it, but the automatic system that they use for it isn't as competent as if you just did it yourself, because because apparently it makes really bad decisions, or that's what everybody says at least.
All right, fair enough. Since you seem to like RTSs, but you fell out of the genre, I think you're the perfect person I can ask this question. I'm making a game right now. Right now, I'm making an RPG, but afterwards, I think I'm going to try my hands at putting together an RTS. What is something that you feel like the genre is lacking in that would like reinvigorate you into wanting to play an RTS?
Damn, that is a great question, and I don't know. It has
Really?
to have like so many different things because I feel like like on launch you want the game to probably have a lot of customizability for I feel like for the players. So they can they make it very easy to mod. I think that's like really important. And also making it so there's like tools available too. So like have like a
Hmm.
level edit, like so like StarCraft. I think the one like what I fell in love with StarCraft wasn't the player versus player stuff as much. It was these custom levels people would make. And you could do all sorts of different things. You could make movies in it. People would make movies in StarCraft, and they
I
made
remember that.
it was like really cool. And you could do fucking anything with StarCraft One. The original StarCraft map editor was very, and people built on that and made even better map editors that had even more stuff that they could do on them, do it than even the basic one. But even the basic one was competent. The basic one was solid, and it let people build whatever they wanted to build in the game and create their own levels and share and play those levels with other people online very easily. And so,
Did you
oh, good.
Oh, I was gonna ask, did you ever see any of the Warcraft 3 mod editing that they did? Like any of the map creations or anything?
Oh yeah, I didn't make a lot of the Warcraft 3 ones myself, but I played tons of them, and you could do a lot of stuff with that too. That's another thing that they did really well. And then also they kind of fucked it up though. And it's this weird thing. I view it, and maybe I'm just a fucking moron, but they made the StarCraft 2 map editor, and it was the most advanced one yet. But the custom map scene in StarCraft 2 never really picked up, it seemed. Like there was some of it there, but it never really became like it was in StarCraft 1, where it was such a massive thing. And I think that's because they almost went like too ambitious with it. Or they didn't that might not be it actually, but it's so they had this massive ambitious idea. You could do almost anything. You could even like play like first and third person shooter maps in the StarCraft. You could literally do first person shooter maps because people have made these like massive mods.
Yeah, I
But
did see some of those.
which was
I Oh, my bad.
oh, so I was just, which was really cool. For the book, I try to keep it like, uh, uh, which was really cool. But it was like the vast majority of players, it wasn't accessible anymore because they didn't have it like, it wasn't nobody could you couldn't just like go in and make your own map because like they or not in the same way because it was way more difficult and too complicated. So they should have had like a had the complexity, but have a better tutorial for the users who want to get into that so that they'll know how to do it. And then two, it's like they not too many people made those first person shooter type maps because if you already have like that kind of knowledge about programming that you're able to turn the game into a first person shooter, like you might as well just make your own game at that point.
What you're saying actually makes a lot of sense intuitively to me. And the reason why I say that is I played around with the Warcraft 3 map editor, right? And I started playing around with it literally the first day I opened up the editor. It was very intuitive to learn. I just looked at it. I was like, okay, I know exactly what was going on. And so I was using the Warcraft 3 editor for like 3 years by the time I played StarCraft 2. When I opened up the StarCraft 2 map editor, I had no fucking idea what I was looking at. And I exited out of it and I never went back to it.
Yeah, and I think that hurt the scene. Again, have the complexity, but don't but don't make it impossible to use. Have it be intuitive, an intuitive UI, and also one that'll like you could also guide new players. But like the StarCraft and Warcraft 3, you didn't even have you didn't even have to like really know what you were doing just too much. Like the triggers are the most complicated part of it. But even that is like really intuitive. the way they set that up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I want to play StarCraft now. I haven't played StarCraft in a while.
But if there's something missing though, I feel like something like that would be important. But you have to have so many different things. You have to have like a good single player, assuming you want to go that route with it. You have to have like a good um, you have to give good like matchmaking, probably like some sort of skill based matchmaking, but like also allow for custom games too.
I feel like custom games are so important.
Oh yeah,
Like
100%.
I feel like I spent so many fucking hours playing tower defense on like Warcraft 3. Like just playing Dota and tower defense on Warcraft 3, I spent at least 80 hours on.
Yeah, I've for better or worse dedicated probably hundreds of hours, well, literally thousands of hours of my life to StarCraft. Um, back when I was back when I was a kid and teenager, because like I actually had there was this app called Xfire, and it would keep track of how many hours you played a game. And so I played over 2,000 hours, and that was just it tracking it. And and I'd been playing the game for years before I even got Xfire. So like just in like the like the few year period, that was
God
so
damn.
I yeah, thousands of hours, and probably like at least 100 of those hours were doing tower defense maps like just like that, because it and that gave the game so much longevity too.
Oh, and the fucking the old tower defense games and those RTSs were so fucking fun.
Yeah, they really more so than the dedicated tower defense games like you've seen. Defense Grid's
Yeah,
pretty good,
that's the
but
weird thing. I have not been able to find a tower defense game that feels better than either StarCraft or Warcraft 3 tower defense, including the fucking balloon popping game everybody likes to play.
yeah, I thought Defense Grid was okay. But it's
I don't think I
nowhere near
played
as
that.
good as the. It's on Steam as well, I think. But I don't know about the anything else that's really even come close to those tower defense levels.
Yeah, I just want to make an RTS because I feel like the genre needs some more love. Because like there's not really any innovation when it comes to the RTS genre, even when it comes to the I really can't remember the game, but there's some ex StarCraft developers that are basically making a new game people are referring to as StarCraft 3, and I'm excited for it, but looking at it, it doesn't look like there's really any innovation. It looks like Command and Conquer 4, or well, I guess Command and Conquer 4 is already out, so it'd be like Command and Conquer 5 or StarCraft 3. I don't see any reason why people are going to be like, "Oh my god, I need to pick back up RTSs." And I feel like that's what you need from a game if people are going to return to the genre. It needs to wow people like you who have turned away.
Yeah, and I don't even think I've like turned away. I still like RTSs. Like I still play StarCraft One occasionally from time to time. I've just when I say I don't like resource management, I meant more like on the mass macro scale. Um, like managing like multiple different planets' economies and stuff, like or managing like multiple different cities' economies. I meant more
Oh,
like
so
on
like
that
the
scale, like
massively
like
autistic shit.
like turn-based. I'm more out of turn-based stuff, though I do have an interest in it still. Like I would pick up a turn-based game if I saw it. It looked really cool, and I really thought it was doing something innovative, like you say, with the genre. But also, yeah, what I don't know what hasn't been done that can. I just
Um,
there has to be multiple things.
I feel like the problem with the RTS genre is you can do too much and there needs to be more limiting factors that help you with strategy. If like base what I see the problem in RTS is you need to take the gameplay and slow it down. But you don't need to like physically slow the player down. You just need to have the player slow down because of the way resource management works, so moves per minute don't matter as much. At least that's my take.
Almost make it more of like a tactical experience.
Yeah, more of a tactical experience, less of a spamming your keyboard until it's fucking broken.
Yeah, there have been some games that have tried that, like Dawn of War, the second one, I guess, and even the
Mhm.
first one throughout the single player. Um, at least in the first few levels, it really does like have more of that tactical feel, but it's very limited. Like there could be something out there to make like a full something that's gonna like slow it. Like, well, I think one of the issues that like turn people off from like StarCraft and stuff is that unless you're playing on like a top tier pro level, like most of the time, or no, I mean at the lower levels, I should say, because like anything from like mid and above, people are playing like pretty legit probably, but the lower levels, a lot of times it just seems like it's even like on matchmaking, it just seems like the two armies are just building up big armies and then attack each other's bases. They're not actually
Yeah.
playing. They're not actually like having those small engagements like they do at the top tier levels, top tier players. But like if there's a way to like make a game, there might be like an interest in a game like that where it's less about like these massive armies, but more like on a smaller scale
One thing I thought about
and
to
slower.
counter that, you could actually do a debuff system because so like I read a lot of history. One thing that you learn is big armies do not mean big rewards. A lot of the time a big army can actually fuck you in the battlefield because a bigger army you need more people to lead it. So what I was thinking about doing is let's say you have 100 of a troop, like let's say there's knights, right? Let's say you have more than 100 knights, all of your knights do 50% less damage, and it's, or maybe not damage, but something that will disincentivize you from having larger armies. And you could literally just explain it the same way real life is, where a bigger army doesn't necessarily mean stronger, it can actually be weaker.
Yeah, and I it's such an amazing genre that's done so much. I would like to see, like you say, I want to see some sort of innovation there. I want to see people take it in new directions. I just,
I
I just, as a game, as someone who's never thought about like developing my own RTS. Well, maybe I did when I was a kid, but like developing my own RTS game on the spot, like I can't really come up with a whole lot of interesting insights for your project. I'm sorry.
oh no, you're fine. I'm just bouncing ideas off right now.
Yeah. Well,
I
hey,
don't.
we're still doing the GamerGate book interview though, so
Oh yeah, that's my bad.
no, it's my bad too. I'm the one who's interviewing you. But I know I like it when we can do stuff like that. I like it when we can go into asides because I think it makes the conversation more real. It shows that the people I'm talking with are actual human beings.
Oh yeah, I like that. That's fair.
Yeah, and I also think like it lets the book explore because it's like it's not yes, it's a book about Gamergate, but in like some ways it's also a book about like where the Gamergate people are now are everyone who was involved in this whole thing on both sides, on nobody's side, on trolling people's side, just like um the people like everybody who just was life was touched by this in one way, some way or another. I'm getting their stories, not just about what happened 9 years ago, but about where they're at today, where their lives are, where they want their lives to go, their hopes, their dreams, who these people turned out to be. It's that story too, I guess. I didn't think of it that way originally. I mean, in part I did, but not as much. I didn't think about it as much. But it is the story of where these people are now too.
Yeah.
Myself, where I'm at.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Which it it makes sense when you think of it because that shit did happen over a fucking decade ago. Where some people like me will literally have completely different beliefs compared to what they thought back then. And now you can get the perspective on it as well, which is pretty nice. Like it happened so long ago, a lot of people are willing to just give their brutally honest take because they're a little bit separated from it now.
Yeah, yeah, and it's definitely been an interesting thing to explore. And like no one's caught up on anything. Like nobody's caught up on like old drama and be like, "Oh, well, what about like 9 years ago?" And and like they're really just telling their like whole story. And they're not well, like most of them I assume I think are. Um but they're telling their stories and they're not letting their old like biases and their old grudges or anything like that get in the way, and they're just they want to, because it's a historical phenomenon. They have no skin in the game anymore. It's all said and done, and it's history now. It's a part of history.
I would say the weird thing with me is talking about this, I actually have like a weird nauseous feeling. And the reason why is it's like I'm so far separated from it that me thinking back to like who I used to be, it's kind of fucking weird because everything that I've told you right now, I basically don't talk about this anymore. I don't really reference to it. This is probably the only time I'm actually diving. No, this is probably the first time I've actually dived in and explained everything, which it's honestly weird because a part of me has to come to terms with the fucked up shit I did where I know that I was young and it's like a whatever, but I still do kind of feel like a piece of shit when I think back to it, even though it happened so long ago. It's hard to believe that I did that kind of thing.
Honestly, I don't think you should beat yourself up over this at all. I don't think anybody does, because like, dude, you were a fucking kid. Just it is in the past. A decade ago, you were fucking 14 years old. Nobody, dude, nobody cared. Like
Okay.
I don't like the really like even like remember we were in the panel with you, me. It was my feminism and gaming panel. It was like the after show
Oh
basically.
yeah.
Well, it was like towards the end of the panel actually, and it was more of an informal setting at that point. And it was like you, Oron Dark Lord, CC, and um, Nine Tails and Miss Vivian Wolf. Like people, like you got two people who were pro GamerGate, plus myself. You got you, the guy who trolled people back then. You've got Vivian Wolf and Nine Tails who like really have a strongly negative opinion about GamerGate. Though they, I don't. Well, I don't know if Vivian was involved in anti-GamerGate stuff back then, but like Nine Tails wasn't. Um, but like people had very strong views, and like you said this, and like nobody really cared. Like nobody, I didn't perceive anyone's reaction as judging you when this very diverse group of people, because they were all like, ah, whatever. It was you were a kid.
I guess that's not really my feeling. It's not like a feeling of judgment. It's more like, have you ever had like a horrible experience asking a girl out and like everybody laughed at you and it was just fucking embarrassing? And even to this day, you still have like that secondhand embarrassment when you think about it?
Yeah, I'm not that specific situation, but yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling for it.
But dude, I mean, I don't understand like you like I really think that like the vast majority of people would like never even like care. So you shouldn't like be worried about it. And for yourself, I mean, I think you just have to like recognize that you've made some mistakes and moved on. Like I'm not a perfect person either. I don't pretend to be. Um, I didn't like harass anybody during Gamergate except maybe this one guy, helicopter guy. But like I apologized to him at the time and made amends, and him and I are on good terms now. Well, I haven't talked to him in like 3 years, but like last time I talked to him, we were on good terms, and we'd hung out and talked a few other times, quite a few times since then. So
Oh, that's nice.
yeah. Well, I invited a troll basically onto his show. I posted an open link on this trolling site. It was not something I should have done. I
Oh
apologize. I
no.
owned up. I owned up to it. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that. I didn't know. I thought it was just a funny joke, man. It was. I was just.
It
I
was
did
a
not.
joke though.
No, it was just a. No, it was. I never should have done it. It was so bad. It was. I mean, it wasn't that bad. But the problem is, because like nothing happened. Nobody got hurt or anything. But
Uh-huh.
um. But the problem is that obviously I'm representing not myself. I'm representing GamerGate. I never should have done this thing, dude. I never should have done this thing, and I could have. Something bad could have happened, and so something bad could have happened, and I betrayed Helicopter Guy's trust, and I made GamerGate look bad, and I represented myself in a way. that I shouldn't have. I mean, I was like fucking 20 years old. So like, what? It was a stupid, dumb joke. But everyone, I think, he forgave me, and nothing bad happened, and we like whatever. We moved on, and we kept talking for years later. So yeah, no, but like I should have done that. We all done stupid shit, dude. We've all done stupid shit online, and just fucking move forward.
Yeah, I think I just have to get over. It might be the inexperience of me talking about it is why I get the secondhand embarrassment. Because, like, this is something that I do tend to avoid. So that might just be what it's from.
Well, hey, I'm glad I gave you the forum to do that. And now, if anyone ever like tries to call you on it, be like, "This guy is evil," I'm like, "Hang on, here's his whole explanation. Here's the full
Yeah,
context."
I hope this ends up in the manifesto. That's it.
Oh, dude. So what? So obviously, you're working on a game, right? You're a game developer.
Yeah, I've been learning game development since I was a kid. That was one thing I was going to say earlier. World of Warcraft actually inspired me to want to be a game developer because they have dungeons and raids, right? So, what I would do as a kid, I would spend fucking hours in my notebook writing down different raid and dungeon ideas for World of Warcraft. I would be like, all right, this is the idea for the brand new 40-man raid. It has 37 bosses. One of the bosses is the God King Nubarak. And yeah, I would do this fucking constantly. To the point where I ended up learning 3D modeling when I was 15. I no, I would have been 16. Whenever the fucking Blender Guru posted his very first donut tutorial, I had followed it. It was only posted, the last donut tutorial was 2 months old at that time. And I had followed the entire tutorial. I learned 3D modeling. I had picked up Unreal Engine. I started teaching myself Unreal, and I could never make much progress in Unreal, and I was always able to make more progress in Unity because Unity's a little bit easier. But I ended up finally actually putting my first game together in 2020, and then I ended up doing 4 game jams with some buddies of mine. So total, I've released 5 games. 4 of those are just game jams, though. The first one, it was a free game I just released online.
So I I this is a cursed topic to bring up, but I feel like I should.
All right, let's do it.
You're a game developer,
All right, yes.
and you're one of the guys who harassed Brianna Wu,
Oh no. All right, let's go it. Let's do it.
and you're on a quote unquote GamerGate podcast, quote unquote, or GamerGate live stream.
All right.
Do you think that's going to be good for your game development career?
Uh, okay. I think with me, I'm wanting to do a political YouTube channel and I'm wanting to make games. So my idea of having a normal game developer career is kind of already thrown out the window. Um, with some of the shit I've already seen online, if like Blizzard or any big company wanted to do an in-depth background check, they would probably find some shit they wouldn't like.
Yeah, but I mean, to be clear, I don't think that anything I don't said or done in this interview. Well, first of all, you're not here in the capacity of Gamergate. Gamergate doesn't fucking exist anymore. And neither am I. We're just two people talking. I'm interviewing you for a historical project, and you were a troll from back then who didn't
So
even know what Gamergate was.
it's
So
not what I said back then is what scares me. It's what I say today is what scares me. So like yesterday I was in Kankelmore's server and we were having a debate about bestiality, and I'm the type of person I don't give a fuck. I'll just blurt out words the most graphic, obscene way imaginable, throw it to the wind and not give a shit. Or another example of the shit I'm afraid of. I have a quote in Destiny's server where, and this is the only quote associated to me, that just says, fuck, what is the exact wording? Sometimes we need a little bit of fascism. Because I literally screamed that during a debate where it's like, you know what? Sometimes we do need a little bit of fascism, because people were saying the context we were debating about um fuck, what the hell is it called? The flag for the South,
The
the
Confederate flag?
Confederate flag. Yeah, we were debating about Confederate flag, and I was saying that yeah, we probably shouldn't allow the Confederate flag in public, right? Like I don't think that's something that we should probably allow in protests. And I was even saying I would be more okay with Nazi memorabilia versus Confederate flag because Confederate flag directly stands for the opposition of America. It stands for the destruction of America. Like it is literally a symbol of hate. It was created for a symbol of hate against America. So, under that grounds and under the historical grounds, I don't feel like it's okay to show it. Everybody was screaming at me because I had like 9 different fucking freedom of speech Andes saying I was going way too far and that's fucking fascist. So I literally just blurted out and screamed, you know what? Sometimes we need a little bit of fascism.
Yeah, I do you not think it should be legal to display Confederate symbols?
Okay, so this was my take. Do I think you should get arrested for displaying Confederate memorabilia? No. Do I think you should be allowed to have a Confederate flag in a protest where you're screaming the South shall rise again? No, I think that's you attempting an insurrection on the United States.
Well, I don't think people should be violent, but I think if all they're doing is waving a Confederate flag or all they're doing is expressing their viewpoint, then I am going to be that free speech Andy and be like, no, absolutely, they have the
Oh
right to
yeah,
do that.
okay, so my take is I'm okay with like anything else but the Confederacy because the Confederacy, okay, let's say you are saying I stand for the free speech of America, right? And that's why I'm waving a Confederate flag. The Confederate flag does not stand for the free speech of America. The Confederate flag does not stand for free speech. The Confederate flag stands in opposition of America. It was created in opposition of America. It was created as the opposition. Like it doesn't stand for anything that America stands for.
Yeah, I look, I don't like the Confederacy. I think they did a lot of bad stuff. I think that they were formed over slavery, and I think that's not good. And I think that the people, but look, dude, first of all, I think you have to like be universal in like the application of the freedom of speech. But like second, like I think we should probably like build a culture in the South, and maybe they've already been doing this. I mean, seems like they might have already accomplished this. I don't know. I haven't like researched this area, but like it seems like you want to build like an identity, a southern identity in the United States, if there is going to be a southern identity in the United States, and like there is probably going to be one, and there probably is
Mm-hmm.
one, and like we should just recognize that, and like encourage positive aspects of like southern history from southern whites who did noble things and were good people, and also from southern blacks who were good people and did good things, and like promote this like fused history of the region that looks to the best aspects of white Southern culture, black Southern culture, and maybe there's not even two separate things anymore. I don't know. I don't hear people. Maybe there's not two different cultures. Maybe they have merged, and maybe they are and should become one culture, one Southern
It's
culture.
definitely better than it used to be because so like my family's from the South. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. My mom spent her whole life in Florida, and basically most of my family is from down in the South. And I would say back in like the early 2000s, 90s, shit like that, it was a lot worse than it is now. But the problem is now, back in the 90s and shit like that, you could have a lot of people that would fall back on the Confederate flag is Southern pride, right? And that's what happened a lot of the time that, oh, it's just a historical icon, it's Southern pride. Now the cultures have mixed a little bit more, and there is a lot more people that know, you know what, there is a little bit more than just Southern pride when we're talking about the Confederate flag. And you're reaching to a point within the South where most people who do have the Confederate flag know exactly what it represents. They know it is literally a mark of slavery. They know the flag stands for slavery. That's what I find funny of trying to use freedom of speech to defend the Confederate flag when it literally stands for the it, I'm really like speaking general terms right now, but basically it stands for anti freedom of speech because the South didn't have freedom of speech in the Civil War. They didn't stand for freedom of speech. It stands for slavery, not for free people, not for your freedoms. It I just don't understand how you're going to use the American ideals of freedom to defend a flag that threw all that away, that represents a nation that wanted to take over the US and destroy our freedom of speech.
Well, as much as I hate to say this because it's going to sound really, really bad, the Civil War is a bit more nuanced than that. Like it is about slavery. I'm not saying it's like that is like it is fundamentally about that, but like the South wasn't trying to take over the North.
So yeah, it comes down to the quote unquote states' rights, right? But the states' rights was the rights to preserve a slave. The thing about the South wasn't wanting
No,
to
I'm just
stop it
saying
with
like they
the
weren't
South.
trying to take over the North. So like you could still have the United States of America. The
They
United States of America still existed, right? It just didn't include the southern states.
the thing is they you could argue they were trying to take over the North because they were trying to have secession movements all throughout the North. They were trying to have the North join them.
I maybe I'd have to look into that. I'm not like a historian on this stuff.
Oh yeah, see this I have read so much with this because my family are very much the South had the Civil War had nothing to do with slavery and had everything to do with the states wanted their own rights and they didn't want to pay taxes. That's what my
Well, no,
family would always
I
tell
I
me.
know it's for slavery. I don't think it's like this. I think that by far in a way was like the primary cause. Um, I'm just thinking it's like more nuanced and like the exact like to say that this flag stands for anti-freedom of speech. Well, like thousands of flags throughout history also stand for hundreds of flags throughout history don't stand for freedom of speech. Like pretty much any flag prior to just a couple hundred years ago, a few hundred years ago, automatically has that association. Not to mention like Nazi Germany and or the communist China today, right, which is actively perhaps committing a genocide against its Uyghur population, all right?
I just realized an important part of the conversation that was left out when I was talking about the debate before. The conversation we had originally started with talking about whether or not it's okay for Nazi Germany to ban swastikas and basically Nazi memorabilia, because it is illegal to have Nazi memorabilia in Germany. Um, so that's how the topic actually got started, where someone was just like, well, do you think they should do that to the Confederate flag in the US? And I was just like, well, yeah, under the same grounds that Germany has done it, I think the US should do it.
Yeah, I don't think you should be policing ideas. I think that if people commit actions and those actions violate the law, then they should be held accountable. But you can't I don't want the government to be deciding for me what I can or can't say, what I can or can't read, what flag I can or can't wave, what opinions I can or can't hold. And I don't want the government to be deciding all of that for me and telling me what I should think and how I should think. I want to be able to think for myself, and I don't trust anybody else to decide for me what I should be allowed to say, do, or encounter in life. I want to encounter it all and make my own judgments as a free person. And I don't think, and then once you start going down this path, you said earlier that it's just going to be the one, just this one thing. You can't do the Confederacy, you can do everything else. Well, it doesn't work that way. You have to, once you start
Yeah, it's
making
the slippery
exceptions,
slope fallacy.
I mean, not even just like a slippery slope policy. Like once you've already like very clearly stated that like yes, some ideas do not belong under the protection of freedom of speech. But which is what you're saying essentially. It's not just
Yeah,
like
pretty much.
that's what you're making a carve out. Some ideas, and this just this one particular idea is outside of the realm. Well, now you've already conceded that some ideas are outside the realm. Now, what are people are going to have wildly different definitions about what exactly is too far. And so now you're going to have people you have like far right Christian people with promoting their own ideas about blasphemy laws, or Muslim people too pushing.
Yeah.
You're going to have all sorts of people who are pushing for all sorts of different things because like you've already opened the door and said that this is like this is what our society believes in. It believes in not freedom of speech essentially, right? It believes in freedom of speech except you can't have these opinions. These opinions, these ideas, we've criminalized this. And I also don't think that that's good. I don't think that's how you defeat fascism. Look at Europe right now. They have hate speech laws all across Europe, and there's still far right governments winning. They just know to say not the special words. They're not going to go out there usually, and start calling for like mass genocide or anything like that. They've learned to be careful to avoid the certain words that the censors don't want to use, and they use euphemisms instead. Now we're talking about the Great Replacement. We're not
Yeah.
talking about it. We're not talking. That's how, you were in the far right. Um, so you're not.
Dude, I had okay, sorry that you just brought this up. This was the crazy fucking thing with me. So I believed in the Great Replacement theory until I started reading, well, not until, because I stopped believing it before I started reading, but I started reading a lot of World War II shit, and I realized the way they talk about Mexicans in the Great Replacement theory is the way Germans talked about Jews before World War II.
Well, dude. Anyway, we're getting a bit far afield from GamerGate. Anything
Oh
else?
yeah, my bad.
No, no, not no. It's. I'm probably gonna wrap it up now, though. We can definitely talk again, though. It sounds like we've got a lot of interesting things in common.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely be down to talk.
Cool. Oh, what?
One thing,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you if you would be interested in this. So you do know Ninetales, and this is the only server that I am currently connected with Ninetales inside of. Would you be interested in hosting a debate between us, like where you moderate?
Uh, yeah, sure. What's the topic?
Um, I don't know what the topic would be for sure, but I will let you in on the backstory. So me and Ninetales, we were talking
This is gonna be
before.
in the book, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Uh
are you or well, do you want to? Are you okay with that?
yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't
Okay.
want to ruin your book. That's my bad.
No, no, no. Go ahead and say what you were. I don't know if you like want your personal drama right now to be like in the book. But
Uh
it's part of like history, I guess too. So
well, I guess that would depend on do you want me to say it? Because again, I don't want to fuck anything up.
fuck, I don't care. Say it's just don't slant. Don't go fucking wild with it. Okay.
The only thing I was going to say was the facts of the situation.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. Just say whatever you want to say. I'm not gonna censor you at this point. Just go, 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 go.
All right. So, me and Ninetales believes in Bookchinian communalism, right? And so me and Ninetales had multiple debates regarding Bookchinian communalism and whether or not that is the best process going forward in society, right? Um, And this turned into a very heated debate after I did what Ninetales told me to, which was read Bookchin. Um, I spent like 20 hours doing research on Bookchin, figuring out who he is, figuring out his ideology, so on and so forth. Then I debated Ninetales on it, and this turned into a metric shit show that escalated off of Twitter, where Ninetales started screaming at me saying that I was using Darvo on them every time I tried to call them out on the bullshit they were doing. Then, while they were saying that I was being the abusive asshole, basically, they said I looked like I was a mass shooter wannabe that should go ahead and go through with it. Um, and yeah, things got very ugly very quickly to the point where I would like to have a conversation with Ninetales and have a civil, grounded conversation where maybe I won't feel like annoyed with this person, but I know I cannot talk to her by myself, that there has to be a moderator there. So I'm not fucking crazy if they do start doing the shit they were doing before.
Yeah, dude, I'll do it. Fuck it.
All right, thank you very much.
Just know that like my schedule's super limited, but
Oh yeah,
because of the
you know
book
my
and
schedule
because
as
the
well.
holidays, yeah, and yours too. But yeah, I'll set you two set it up, pick a date, or have a few different floating dates. That would be best, and I'll see if I can do it.
All right, I'll probably schedule something for next month after the holidays.
Cool. And like if for some well, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to do it as long as I have some heads up on it. Yeah. So cool. After the holidays.
All right.
All right. Well, hey, thank you, Avius, for telling me your GamerGate story or your you. I don't feel comfortable calling it a GamerGate story. Thank you
Oh yeah,
for
nah.
calling me your trolling story during the GamerGate era. And thanks for coming on and chatting with me about game development, RTS, um, politics, Ninetales, and your gracious debate moderation offer. So take care, my friend, and I guess we'll go off air in a second here.
Alrighty, thank you very much for having